And so that kind of leads me to introducing myself. My name is Ron Morlan. Well, first things first, I need to, for my friends at West High, my friend Matt's going to take it. I do not work at West High in Waterloo, but as a joke, the principals gave me one of their fancy Nike dry fit shirts, and so I'm going to honor them today. Also, I packed the wrong belt, so my belt does not match. But hopefully, I've stalled long enough. I'm the instructional technology person for the Waterloo schools. And so what does that mean? I'm not exactly sure. Special projects boy is what it's kind of turned into. But I try to support teachers in their efforts to integrate technology and staff development and kind of a branch of the curriculum office. So that's who I am, Ron Morlan. And if you scroll down on this document, did everybody get this document at least copy? Raise your hand if you've got this custom menu that finally popped up after about, I counted 10 Mississippi-ish, and it came? Okay. So that's what we're going to be interacting with. If you scroll down, kind of late last, and if you made a copy of this before, like last night, you might want to re-download another copy, because I made some last-minute edits, and so you're actually making a copy of my latest version if you do it now. Got some resources that I use. I tell my teachers the main difference between me and you is that I'm a better Googler than you, and I really mean it. Like 90% of what I know I've investigated and Googled myself and found on various resources, especially when it comes to coding. There's this thing called borrowing code, and that's literally what this whole platform is based on, is borrowing code. And then if you scroll down, I have some more real live solving problem projects that I've done, and those are kind of like, wow, major extensions of your learning, so we probably won't have time to look at those today at the bottom. But I wanted you to walk away, if you did anything, is made a copy of this document, so you have these snippets of codes that you can repurpose, dink with, and you'll be surprised at how much not only you can start doing things and solving real problems with, but the kids too. So this all started with a theory that I had as I was kind of thinking about my own learning on coding. I have no formal training in coding whatsoever, just kind of messing around with it, going to conferences, that kind of thing. And I kind of started messing with this idea that it's a lot like, how many of you have had, well, anybody in here fluent in Spanish? Like really pretty decently fluent? Are most of us working with about a year, maybe 2 years of high school Spanish? Okay, so that's roughly, so this is going to be, if you go to the custom menu and launch the introduction, this is kind of demonstrating the whole principle. The idea here, while you're trying to get as many words as you can that you can recognize in Spanish, go ahead and type that and hit OK. My theory is, I have found with kids and myself, that just looking at code, I can make some sense of it, even though I'd never be able to write it myself. For me, I recognized, since there's numbers, I'm going to go with miles maybe. House, I recognize. Family. That would be, okay. And when I hit OK, how did you do? Did you get quite a bit of it? Yeah? So if you're like me, I would have never been, if somebody said, hey, right, I am 24 miles from my home and I miss my family in Spanish. I don't even know if I could have started. But reading it, I kind of was like, okay, I can make some sense of this. So that's the approach I'm taking with this presentation on looking at Google scripting, in this case JavaScript. So let's dive in. And so I also marked that this is kind of an intermediate class, so I'm gonna be asking a lot. If you're gonna follow along, I'm gonna be asking quite a bit of you. So right now, go ahead and open just a blank Google document in another tab. And so we're gonna look at real code. You're gonna copy and paste what you see into the script editor in Google, and you're gonna make stuff work and actually happen. So let's do it. So I'm going to do the same. Get a blank document. Don't even have to name it. We just need to have it available. A scratch pad, if you will, for coding. All right, so follow along with me. Let's go to the alert example. Guess what? An alert shows up. And there's kind of different components of an alert. And you already can see kids are going to be digging this. And they, there's a project called Teacher's Pet where when the teacher opens it, it says, "You're my favorite teacher." And the kids thought that was really funny. But title of alert and then the actual content of the alert. So once you hit OK, it should produce some code. I always wondered how this would work when a bunch of us are trying to do it together. Come on, interwebs, don't fail us now. There we go. Please tell me it wasn't that slow for all of you, right? Maybe? Still? What's that? Okay. Because I don't know why sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so there's a couple components. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Let's look at this. You'll notice that I've built in some little helps on kind of just the fundamentals of coding. It's not really the point, but when I was working with kids who had no prior knowledge, a function is a name of something. So any of you have enough prior context to know, did I have to name this alert example? Did I? No, I could have named it Dragon Breath if I wanted to. That's just, I try to coach kids into naming things something that would make logical sense for them. So a function is kind of like a collection of commands, much like getting ready for school has a set of tasks that you have. A variable is a symbolic name or reference to some information that could change over the course. But I'm going to go ahead and close this, and let's just take a look at this. Using your theory of, how about a variable? UI on the little help menu had user interface as what it kind of stood for. But when I'm naming a variable, did I have to name it UI there? No, I'm here seeing some shaking of the heads. So no, I could have named that anything also. How about after the equal sign? What do you think? Does that look like something I could name whatever I wanted? No, yeah, that's the piece that a kid probably wouldn't know that Spanish word, so to speak. Okay? All right? So somebody in your own language, walk line by line, what is happening in this? And we won't do this on every example, but I just want to make sure that you're understanding the concept of how kids do pick up on this. First line, what's happening? Somebody just be brave and take a stab.
You're defining the function.
Okay, so first line, I'm defining the function. I'm just naming it. I'm giving this whole thing a name. Yep, second line.
Defining a variable.
I am defining a variable, the user interface, but I'm also calling up. What does it look like? I'm getting a user interface, right? I'm kind of asking it to be awake, so to speak. How about that third line? That one's probably the most obvious.
Sending parameters to that user interface.
Yeah, so I'm sending specifics to that user interface. So I'm saying with this user interface that is built into Google, I'd have to look that up somewhere. With that user interface, I want you to, which I named UI, I could have named it Dragon Breath. It could have been dragonbreath.alert, and that's also Google-ness. That's Google for an alert. They were very intuitive with that. And so here's the title of the alert, and then the actual alert itself. And then there's a button set, and my little how-tos kind of walk you through some of your options. In this case, I just simply wanted an OK button. All right? So now copy and paste that into your new document. And we never talked about, well, where do I even get to the script editor? I never said that, did I? So if you go to Tools, there's a menu option called Script Editor. Everybody get there? I'm going to keep moving along. And then you should be able to just copy this whole set of information down to the little bracket down below and paste that over the top of the function. It always starts you with just a blank function. And then I want you to change some of the parameters. My friend Matt said the parameters. So instead of a boring title of alert, and this is an alert, make it your own. Pretend like you're a kid making your own little bubble that's going to come up. And then, if you want to save, go ahead and hit the save button. And of course, I want you to name the project, so we'll just name it whatever you want to, it doesn't really matter. Are we ready to play it, so to speak? In your menu, there should be this little run button. It looks like a play button. So go ahead and click play, but you're going to have to bounce over to your blank document to see if it worked. Did you get your bubble to pop up? I'm seeing some yeses. All right, you just made an alert with Google Script. All right, so we're going to start building on that quickly. So go back to our tool, and let's go to a prompt example. All right, so right away it's going to prompt is prompting for some user information. So we're combining the two skills, two different skills this time. So right now we have a prompt, and so let's add our names. Okay. And then I went and reused that information into an alert. So Ron Morlan is your name from now on, or whatever you put. Hit OK. So let's take a look at that code. I'm going to close my help menu. All right, someone else, talk to me a little bit about, in your own language, or in the language you would expect from kids, what did we do here? First line, we declared a name, could have been anything. Second line, we called up that user interface. So from now on, that's going to kind of be the normal two lines you're going to see. But how about here? We called up the user interface with Google's version of prompt. Very similar to an alert, right? But instead, we get a box for them to input. How about this fourth line? What's happening there in your own words?
Whatever we typed into the box, which was our name.
Yep. Say it again.
Well, whatever we typed in the box is what is coming back with.
Is what it's, I'm basically saving it as a variable, and I named it name, which is logical to me, but I could have named it again, Dragon Breath, if I wanted to, which is what I have right now. Okay? And we're saying, hey, with that stuff that they type, let's save it, get response text. And again, that would be a Google thing we would just have to know or look up in Google. Okay? And then with that information, what did we do in this final line? So we have this variable name that we've saved in a bucket somewhere. Now we're calling up an alert, and we're reusing it, right? And the plus sign lets you add variables along with text string that we want with a button. So let's do it. Let's see if we can make it work and make it your own. So let's copy and paste that into our scratch pad. And I'm going to just go right over the top of my alert. I've already learned that. Save it. Make it your own, or do whatever you want. See if it will work when you hit the run button. You'll have to flip back over to your document. It worked for me. Everybody else get it to work? thumbs up if you got some success with the little bubbles.
Where's the run button?
Oh, yeah, thank you. It's the little triangle run button. I should have zoomed in. Let me pop that up. It's this right to the left of the bug. That's how you run it. Now, we're going to talk about how to trigger scripts instead of running it right from the ugly script editor. We can actually trigger it various ways, which we already know a custom menu is one way I can trigger it, right? So, it's going to get more thick in here. Whoops. Go back out, and let's go to our Ron Morlan's Cool menu. And let's go to that custom menu code since we're talking about it. Because if you're like me, that would bother me to see somebody else's name as my custom menu. So we're gonna go into the guts of this tool and let you change the name of your custom menu. But here's kind of the recipe for making a custom menu. And it's so cool that you can add your own menus that launch stuff right from within Google Docs. And I'm just going to tell you, later in this tutorial that we probably won't get to, you can do this in Sheets. It's even neater in Sheets because you can assign script to a picture that you can click on the page, and it'll just launch script, which is cool. All right? So I'm trusting you here. Go to the script editor of the actual tool, not your scratch pad, but of the actual tool. Go to Tools, Script Editor, and you're going to see a lot of scary looking stuff in here, but I trust you enough to find and discover in this messy code where to change the menu's name to your name. I dare you to comply. Should be really obvious. It's the first one that loads up. I have a whole bunch of script files in this one to make this whole apparatus work. If you haven't found it already, when we create a menu with the user interface, very similar, we've seen that before, right? We name it first. Here's an odd little thing. When you use apostrophe for ownership, it doesn't like it because a tick, we call them a tick, is actually something that you have to address in code. So you have to have this, is that called a /, in front of the tick to tell it that it's part of the text, the string. Does that make any sense? Did I just hurt your head a little bit? So did you get it to change, and did you hit save? And then once you hit save, go back out to the tool and hit refresh. And I want to see, after about 3 or 4 Mississippi, hopefully it won't be as long this time, you'll see your fancy name. Much funner than seeing Ron Morlan, who you don't know. Okay. Pretty cool? All right, let's keep marching down. This is where the kids went nuts and pretty much lost them after this. If else. So go ahead and click that. We're going to get immersed into some choose your own adventure-ness. Okay, well, we've done this before. We're going to put our name in there, but I would have, if you haven't already hit OK, think fantasy. So give yourself a cool name like Warlock, or something like that. You've been given a wonderful name, Warlock. You've been selected to fight the dragon. You only have one weapon, your choice between sword, magical rock, or bow and arrow. Okay. So, do you want to select the sword? Yes or no? I want to see what's next, so I'm going to say no. Okay, well, what is this? Is this an alert or a prompt? It's asking for something, so it's a prompt. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to say, I want a rock. Magical rock. Warlock, you've selected the magical rock. And here's where it ends because I gave up. Okay? Now I want you to just take a second to kind of scroll through. Can you kind of make sense? You would never be able to, well, I was never able to write that on my own. Like, that would be insanity. But do you think you could copy and paste blocks and replicate a story, now with maybe some support to get some of the syntax right. If you played enough, I think you could. I'll tell you, the kids did. In fact, they integrated something later in the tutorial is popping up windows of HTML, which includes videos and pictures and all the things. And so they integrated into their story images and videos, and oh, it went crazy. We even did image mapping, and it was crazy. Okay. I struggled with if-else-ness, just logically. Sometimes you just have to strip away. So the resource that I find helpful is the w3schools.com, if anybody ever used that for various stuff. I still to this day, and even with loops, drives I'm music artness, and my friend Matt is not, well, he's musical, but he's very mathematical, linear, and loops just hurt my head. I don't know that I'm going to have to recreate that one. You can if you want, if maybe you already did. I just wanted you to get your eyes on, this almost became literacy mapped with computer science. It was really neat. Mapped with art, like it was this weird blend of all kinds of, in fact, what this ended up leading to was kids designing websites for the sole purpose of hosting images that they wanted to then embed into their Google document code. So it was like, well, how do I have this image downloaded on my computer, but I can't get it to show up in Google. Well, it has to be hosted in the web to reference it, to pull it in, right? So. Okay, this is the next make and take one that I think I'm going to actually spend a decent amount of time. Go to the GraphFormData. This is my most requested script. It's the, hey, I have this Google form, and I wish I could just take the data when something's submitted, wrap it into this cute little flyer or poster or communication, and email it to somebody automatically each time that something's submitted. This is exactly the code you need to do that. So a couple things. This one's a little more involved. I made, just to model what it does, I'm going to show you here if I can get, I'm zoomed in so far. I'm going to go to my certificate, except for I don't want to make a copy, I already own that. And truly, all this one does is, hey, I want the information that I put into this Google form to dump into this cute little certificate that emails to me, and then I can send it to the kid or to their parents. And I just made this award goes to name of student is the thing that I'm going to replace, and name of accomplishment, right? So let's see if we can get this thing to work. Responses, oops, I need to go, sorry. Miles Davis for playing trumpet good. It's my submit. And hopefully my script will work. Sometimes it takes a second to process. Come on, interwebs. It's probably getting I'm out of office. I kept one of these. Sorry guys. These These are all the emails that I've got to process before Hey, there's one I did the other day. It'll come. This award goes to Miles Davis for plane traffic. So it kind of is just this wrapped up PDF. So take a look at that. The one thing that you will need to do is this script works on a specific template that it's copying. So this is my template number. Google assigns each document a unique number. So you made a copy of the certificate that probably has a new number, and that number is between the slashes right before the edit of your template that you copied. Okay? So you're going to want to copy that and change your script to match into that spot between the quotes. And there's another spot where we need to change something, if I remember correctly. Oh, and I never talked about where this actually goes. So, does this code go into the form editor, or does it go into the spreadsheet response sheet? Any thoughts on that?
Spreadsheet.
Yeah, so we're going to put that into the response spreadsheet. So I'm going to pull that up. And usually I have the edit button here on my form. All right, what just happened? Does not exist. I know it exists. There we go. So if I go to my response sheet, and if I go to Tools, there's that script editor. And this is the first time we really have to talk about assigning a trigger. A trigger is something that's going to launch. Remember how we used to have to hit that play button? Well, I didn't have to hit that play button every time for this script. And if you look up here, this button right here, it looks like a clock. It's to the left of the play button. If you click on that, that's where you can assign various triggers. And if I hit add a trigger, I named my set of script, my function, form data. I want it from the head. And what I want, instead of on open, I want it on form submit. So every time that form's submitted, it's going to trigger off that script, and then it's going to package up that information and email it. And I think I probably just made a duplicate. So I would actually get it twice, probably. So I'm going to delete that one. One of the other things to remember, you'll notice, look at that script. I'm collecting and naming variables, these E variables, and I'm naming them something that makes sense. And often in the world of Google, instead of, we normally count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in this case, in the array of responses that's along that row, we actually start with 0. So it's like 0, 1, 2, 3. So positions. So like if these were the three items that I'm collecting in the form, this is 0, 1, and 2. So if you look at our spreadsheet, it makes sense that I named this timestamp because position 0 is what? In almost every Google form response is the timestamp, which is the first in that series of data collected. Right? Name of student is 1, which is actually not intuitive, but it's the second piece of information that we're getting. Okay? The section I want you to also look at right now in the code is we're going to replace text. So with further up into the script, and I understand this is probably majorly foreign language, and that's okay. That's kind of the concept, is that we're making sense of what we can make sense of in the code. But we're replacing the text name of student. And we would need that to be something that would never accidentally be in the document on purpose. So sometimes you'll see they'll add weird characters like little brackets or something around, even some add-ons do that, where they have some sort of squiggly bracket that is the thing that gets replaced in like a mail merge situation. Same kind of thing, but I just needed something that was very unique. So all smashed together, name of student. I would hope I'd never accidentally write that. And I'm going to replace it with name of student, but that's actually the variable that I declared up above, which is the second thing I'm collecting from the form submission. So if you go back to my template, certificate, so it's going to go through this whole document and replace this smash up of name of student with the variable that I collected from the form submission. Mildly makes sense? It hurts a little. It still hurts me a lot. And the idea here also is you're getting exposure with the idea that you have the tool to literally recreate stuff when you actually have time. So, any questions on that? I probably get asked to make something like this almost weekly, or help somebody learn how to make it. Again, a lot of it is, so where you will see probably more, because I intentionally made this super short and simple. But what I often do when I have a new project is I just repurpose this whole code and then start editing things I know that are unique to the project. And then so often what I'll do is I'll just copy this line, the last line of the values I'm collecting, including that semicolon, hit copy, and I'll paste a new one. Whoops, you gotta use the right. And then instead of 2, because I've already collected this 2, I make that a 3, and then I rename, let's say I'm collecting student ID number. And then I could say student ID. Another thing that's, I guess I'm not a programmer, but I've heard that camel case is a thing in programming. It's like etiquette. So lowercase into another word that's uppercase. So in most forms where you're collecting a lot of data, you would probably have a long list of these, I call them e-values, event, that we're pulling from from the form submission and events. So collect all these positions in the array of each row that comes in on a form submission. And we're not just collecting, well, we are collecting them. It would go nowhere if we didn't declare them as something to be stored and remembered as variables and give them a name. Just like when you have a baby, you give them a name and then you can call them by something. And they sometimes come back. Okay. Any questions on that one? Because I want to make sure that if you have the ability to recreate anything, that would be one that is often very usable. It's kind of like your own mail merging. I mean, there's add-ons that kind of do the same thing, but it's kind of nice to have the control to do a lot more with it.
Is the document template something that you just found as far as it's a work?
It's morphed from probably many different sources, but yes. I just Google, let's see, I'm trying to think of keywords. Google form data into document, or something like that. And chances are those major ones that I had on the splash screen, how to generate PDF files from Google Forms, that's probably a recipe. Is that what you were asking? Maybe you were asking something else.
Even like just the template itself. So for instance, you know, the shirt you're wearing is colored in maroon and.
Oh, this thing, yeah. Yeah, I just made that. I don't know. It's all it is actually a table, and then did some coloring so it looks like a border. Yeah. So, I'm going to show you quickly then a real live example that we use with students. Let's see if I'm logged in. Nope, I'm not. Sign out, sorry. We have, at West High, my people at West, they have a student-run coffee house. Our special needs students run it. And so they have really made this a thing, and it's really cool. So I would like to show you. They have in their inbox, or their drive, we have Java West is what they're called. And so I have the Java order form. So they have symbols, which I'm going to show you can be embedded into a thing. They submit their orders and they actually deliver them to different rooms. It's the coolest thing. And they end up getting, they wanted students to get, they wanted a copy to come to the Java West inbox so that they would process the order, but also that the person who submitted it would get a kind of a receipt, so to speak. And so this is an example of this project exactly. Slap a cute little logo that I helped him design. And this person just wanted a fruit smoothie / eat. One example run by kids. All right. What are we doing? Ooh, we're not going to get to a lot of stuff. Okay. If I had to show you maybe one more thing. I want you to go to, I'm going to skip over Extended Learning 1, go there, but I wanted to show you how this all works very similarly in Sheets. So go to Extended Learning 2. One thing I found out with bubbles that are populating with HTML, it won't let you directly go to an external link. You can add a link that then you click on to go to. Mildly frustrating. And I'm not going to make a copy. So same concept. When you go to Tools, Script Editor, you're going to notice one big difference at the top of the function. Well, sorry. since I have a custom menu going on. Let me see. Wow, they're all the same. Anyway, no more mysteries. So you remember when we were working with a Google Doc, it was document app. So clearly, now we have spreadsheet app. So that's a Google thing, but there is also form app and slide. There's some cool slide stuff. Slides app. I think there's one more too that I played with. Okay. But the cool thing is, instead of creating a custom menu up here to launch, or instead of assigning a trigger that can be either time-based or on a form submit or on open, I can actually assign images scripts. So if you, in this case, they're all assigned scripts, so I'm going to right-click on it so I can get this the little hamburger, what do they call that, the little snowman menu. You see how it says assign script? And if I just copy the open custom menu, which must be right here, it will launch this whole function. Which is super cool because it gives you a visual button to click. So I'm going to go ahead and open custom menu. Of course, now why is it not working? There's an alert with a video embedded.
Let's take a look at how we can view.
Yeah, let's stop.
Let's take a look.
Does anybody use Symbolos? That was one of the menu items in the extended learning instructions menu, is that you could theoretically bookmark on all your documents a Symboloo shortcut that pops up. So if you're if you're using Google Classroom and there's a feature where I can blast a template to all my students, what if the template just had only the part for the custom menu already built in? So literally the only piece of script you would need on your blank template with your instructions would be this right here. What, 6, 7 lines of code? You know how to make it. You know how to customize that now. And so I neglected to show you how to then launch that. So I actually take that whole back. We have to actually jump to where it launches the HTML. How many of you have ever used YouTube's share, embed, and you grab the HTML? You ever use that? You know, I use that quite a bit to put it on like your blog or your website. It's really all we would have to do to get the embed code. And then if you go to File, while you're in the script editor, see how I have multiple tabs open now? File, New, and instead of a script file, I'm just going to make an HTML file. Same thing as opening Notepad and then saving it as .html. It becomes a web document, right? And that's all I did over here, and then I copied the embed code. Well, that's how I'm going to show you how to do that. The embed code that I got from the Symboloo. That's all I did, and hit save, and then then you need to do your custom menu here, which you know how to copy and paste and change the name of the menu items, and then we're going to launch the function we want it to launch. Open Symboloo. Let's look at what that looks like. So, right there. I thought I had, holy smokes, there it is. Now, where you might want to play is, how big do you want that? But again, you wouldn't know how to, I didn't know how to actually code that myself. But once I saw it, and I copied and pasted it, I can start changing it for my own purposes, right? And that's my hope for you guys, to be able to copy and paste and apply those things to your own projects. Any questions? This is a lot, and it's like, if you want to reset this document, you can go to the custom menu and go clear down to the bottom, and it'll bring back. There's a little bad planning on my part because I was adding things at the last second, and the things I added at the last second are kind of some of these cool project ideas that you can only get to by refreshing the document back to its original state. This one is a teacher request. So this is this one right here, make bulk Google folders, or think student Dropboxes. We had a teacher at West High, again, who had an issue where we removed some of our server-based Dropbox folders, shared folders for students, and Google Classroom wasn't quite what she was needing because she's doing multimedia, and it was kind of some large files and that kind of thing, if I remember the story correctly. And so this one actually, if you can, I don't know about your student information systems, but for us it's relatively simple to get your student, just a list of your students' names and email addresses. And in this case, this document truly, wherever you happen to place this document, in this case I have it, you can delete this because it will be my directory. But I have it placed in this folder called Create Folders from Spreadsheet. And I just paste a list of student emails. In this case, they're bogus, but if I click Make Folders, watch how these start. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Hopefully these start, oh, that's my 2-minute warning. Or if I didn't authorize or something. Oh, there they go. See how now I have a link directly to that folder? It's going just uber slow. It's not normally this slow. I've done groups of hundreds of email addresses, and it'll start making, we'll go back to see how it's student 1, student 2 starting to pour in. And you'll notice that it actually shares them as an editor. You as the teacher are the owner, and if I go to the share settings, that bogus student 2 at Waterloo or wlu.org is an editor of that folder. So that's again, beg, borrowed, and stole code to make that happen. So I'm going to leave it there. There was, in my mind, we were going to just make all the things and do all the things. But any questions that you have for me on remotely related to this? You think you could reuse some of that code? I mean, it's going to push you. I see some of your faces going, yeah, it will push me. That's okay. I promise you the kids will get a bang out of making alerts and prompts and kind of diving into the choose your own adventure story stuff. They really got into that. Anything else? Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Yep.